Hello and welcome to today's webinar using Microsoft Office in Google Drive. This session is part of a series of free webinars offered every week or two by the Stark Portage Area Computer Consortium, or SPARC for short. SPARC is an information technology center here in Northeast Ohio where we support about 30 school districts. However, this webinar is open to everyone, and we'd like to welcome all the people who have joined us live today or are watching this recording in the future. My name is Eric, and I am a technology integration specialist here at SPARC, and I'll be your presenter for this session today. I am joined by my colleague Anthony, who'll be assisting with a Q&A doc that we'll explain here in just a moment. All of the information for today's webinar can be found at tiny.cc/spark225. I'm going to go there in just a moment, but just want to make sure everybody has that address. If you're watching it live, you might already be there, but if not, I definitely want to make sure you do get to this site. Again, that's tiny.cc/spark, SPARCC 225. Let me go ahead and open up that page and show you where that'll take you out to. And what it does is that brings you to our technology integration website where you'll find all of the resources for this session today. That's going to include the streaming video, which will become the recorded video after the fact. Below there, you'll see any resources related to the session, including the slideshow, and then links to various extensions and apps and plugins and things we're going to be looking at here today. Below there is a link to our live session chat document. So if you give a click on that Google Doc link, it's going to open up a Google Doc where you can put in any questions or comments or suggestions you have during this live session. Anthony will be monitoring that. He'll be answering questions, and if there's something he needs to pass on to me, he'll let me know. And hey, you guys feel free to answer each other's questions as well. It can be a nice communal document for everybody to be using. Below that, you'll find the session evaluation link, just a quick little Google form. Definitely appreciate if you guys give some feedback after watching this video. Helps us to improve our sessions. And then last but not least, at the bottom, there is a short 5-question quiz you can take after watching the webinar to earn a certificate of attendance for 1 contact hour. After you complete that quiz, you will be emailed a PDF certificate of attendance if you pass the quiz, and you can turn that into your school or organization for 1 contact hour if they accept webinars, which hopefully they do. I think we hear many more all the time are accepting webinars as a method for professional development. While you're at the site, definitely feel free to check out a few other things there. You'll see at the top of the page, we do have a link to our PD schedule that will show any upcoming professional development opportunities, including other webinars. We have a link to our past recorded trainings. We got well over 20 of these that we've done over the last year. Feel free to take advantage of any of those. There's also a link at the top to our newsletter, Sparklines. You can sign up for that for free. We won't bug you too often, just about once a month. Let you know all the upcoming webinars and other great technology integration tidbits that to help you out. And then finally, there's a link at the top for contacting us if you need to get in touch with myself or with Anthony. We'd love to hear from you. All right, very good. Well, let's get back to our page for today in case I need to bring that up again. All right, excellent. There it is. And head back over to the presentation and let's get started. All right, so for our agenda today, what we're going to be talking about is using Microsoft Office in Google Drive. So let me kind of set the stage for what this presentation is all about. So let's say your school has gone Google. You've rolled out Google Apps, or maybe this is just in your own personal life. You're using Google Drive now, but you still have Microsoft Office as well. And that's very normal. I'd say most of the schools we work with use both products. They'll have Google Drive, and they'll also still have Word and PowerPoint and Excel. They'll have Microsoft Office as well. And so the question is, can the two of those get along? Can they work together? What can you do with those hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Word documents and PowerPoint presentations and Excel spreadsheets that you've made over the years? Can they enter into the Google world? Can you use them with Google Drive? What options do you have? And so what we're going to talk about is, first of all, a very brief comparison between the two products, Office and Drive, just so we set the stage for that. Then we're going to talk about how to take the files you've got, from Microsoft and put them into Google Drive. And after we upload a few files, we're going to spend the rest of the time on the bulk of this session, which is what do you do with them? Now that you got them in Drive, how do you work with them? And we're going to focus on 3 different things. We're going to start with converting things into Google format. And for things that doesn't quite work for you, we're going to jump up to the next level, which is editing things in Drive with a special Office extension. And if that doesn't work for you, we're going to go up to a 3rd level, which allows you to edit things in Office, but with a plugin or an extension that connects it back to Drive. And so you'll need to find which of those is the best for you, or maybe a combination of the 3, depending upon what it is you're working on. But when it's all said and done, hopefully we'll show you how you can use all of your old Microsoft Office files and still incorporate Google Drive with that. Now, what do you need to be successful in this session? Well, basically, you're going to need a Google account of some sort, whether it's a Gmail account or a Google Apps account, that's fine. You're going to need access to Drive, of course. For a lot of the stuff we're going to be looking at, you'll want to have access to Microsoft Office, since that's really what we're talking about, is taking old Office files and putting them into Drive and using them there. And you're going to need to be able to install things in your browser and on your computer. We're going to be looking at extensions for Chrome and a particular program that gets installed on your computer. So you do need to have permission on whatever computer you're using to be able to install extensions and plugins. All right. Well, with that said, let's go ahead and move on with the session. Remember, everything can be found at tiny.cc/spark225. Let's get going. All right, first thing, Drive versus Office. Now, I don't mean versus as in which one is better than the other, not that kind of versus, because, you know, they're basically 2 products that are both valuable. Drive is Google's product, whereas Microsoft Office, obviously from Microsoft. Now, Drive does many of the same things that the Office suite does. Google Docs, very similar to Word. Google Slides, very similar to PowerPoint. Google Sheets, very similar to Excel. So they do a lot of the same things. But Office definitely does some things that the Drive suite doesn't do. And on the flip side, Drive does some things that the Office suite doesn't do. So for example, the way I kind of look at it is like a big Venn diagram, where I would say the majority, and I don't know if you can put a percentage on it, but you know, the vast majority of the things you need to do, you probably could do with either product. Like if it's a word processing, project you're working on, you could use Word, you could use Google Docs. For the most part, they do a lot of the same things. But yeah, there's some things specific to Office and there's some things specific to Drive. So for example, let's take a look at Google Docs compared to Microsoft Word. And again, we're not saying anything's better than the other. They're just different. So for example, with Microsoft Word, yeah, there are some things I can't do in Google Docs. I just can't. Text effects, drop caps, watermarks, page borders, columns, the show hide formatting button, all those sort of things. There really is not an option for that in Drive in Google Docs. But you know what? The same thing's true with Docs. There's things it does that Word doesn't do. I mean, most importantly is sharing and collaborating. I mean, that's a game changer. With Microsoft Word, if I have a Word document and I open it up, that's it. It's locked. Only I can have it open. Nobody else can work on it with me. Okay. It's one at a time. That's not the way it is with Google Docs, though. We can share and collaborate and we can all work together on things. But there's other wonderful things like voice typing and web fonts, the web clipboard, the research tool, on and on and on. So it's important to understand that when I'm talking about Google Docs and Microsoft Word, they are different. There's a lot of similarities, but they are different enough that, yeah, we are going to hit some pain points here, where when we try to take files from the Office world and put them into the Google world, it's not always going to work pretty. And so that's why we're going to look at 3 different options to make it work. Having said that, though, the analogy I typically use is think of these as just different tools. You know, it's like a hammer versus a screwdriver. Neither one's better than the other. They're just different tools for different jobs. So you need to decide when you're working on a project, does it make sense for me to go with Docs for this one or Word for that one? Do I need to share and collaborate, or do I need columns, or, you know, what is it? What's going to be the best solution in there? All right. So hopefully that sets the stage for what we're going to be talking about here today. So let's get into taking some Microsoft files and putting them into our Google Drive. So uploading files. All right. So what I've got here in my other tabs is I've got Google Drive. So there we go. I'm using just a temporary test account today. This is not my normal account, or you would see a very messy drive. And there would be hundreds and hundreds of files that still need to be put into folders and all kinds of stuff like that. So I'm just using a temporary test account here for today. And there's Google Drive. And I want to put some Microsoft files into my drive to get started with. We got to put something in there so we can start working with it. Now, before I do that, though, one thing I want to mention real quick is there is a setting in Google Drive that can be turned on or off to tell it whether or not it should automatically convert files from Microsoft format into Google format. Normally, this is not turned on, so it's probably not on for you either. And I don't think it should be on, but I just want to take a moment to at least show you where this is at so we can make sure it's turned off before we get started, okay? Because my philosophy is I would rather upload files, leave them in the Microsoft format initially, and then if I want to, one by one, convert them over into Google format. That way, I've got the original if I need to look at it, but I've also got the Google version if that's what I'm wanting to get to. If you just say, hey, convert everything upon upload, well, then guess what? You don't have the original anymore other than on your computer. You don't have the original in Drive. So I just want to show you real quick where this setting is before we actually do any uploading. All right. So if you take a look here in the top right-hand corner of Drive, you'll see there's a little gear icon. If you give a click on that gear icon, you'll get a pop-up, and settings is one of the options in there. Give that a click. And there's a lot of different settings, things you can mess around with in there. But the one that I want to draw your attention to is where it says convert uploads. And it says convert uploaded files to Google Docs editor format. That is not checked at the moment, and I would leave it unchecked. If it is checked, you probably should uncheck that. At least that's my opinion. And then we can choose file by file which ones we want to convert. So just wanted you to know that is the master conversion setting. I'm leaving it unchecked for mine. All right. So now that we've got that out of the way, how do we actually put files into Google Drive? Well, there's a lot of ways to do this. We're going to look at three options. One is using the new button and then choosing either file upload or secondly, folder upload. And then the third option is dragging and dropping files from the computer. Okay. So I'm going to go over to my Drive again. And we're going to talk about uploading some files. Now, I do have some files to work with here. Let me show you what I got. Bring them over here, drag them over to the screen. There they are. So I've got a folder called sample files on my desktop, and I've just put a whole bunch of different random files in there. So for example, I've got a sample Word doc. If I double click it, you can see real quick, it's just an old agenda from a session I taught a year or so ago. So it's just a very simple, no frills Word doc. Then let's close out of that. And I've got another one called sample Word doc with columns. This one's a little bit fancier. It's got a piece of clip art in it. It's got some columns in it. It's got a page border around it. Not still too fancy, but it's a little bit fancier than the other one. Then I've got some other stuff here. Let me see. I've got one which is a sample PowerPoint presentation. Again, very simple. None of these are too crazy. This one just has a couple of slides, a title slide, one with text, one with some clip art, one with a table, and one with some animations. Now, this does have some fancy animations. I went ahead and chose like random bars, and I chose swivel, and I chose bounce. So I picked some, more fancy animations. All right. And then I do have a Excel spreadsheet here, which just has some temperature data in it. So very simple, just some highs and lows, and then it's got some formulas to calculate. So there's the range formula, there's min and max and average, and then a chart off of that. Okay. In addition to that, you'll see there's other files in this folder. So they're not all Microsoft files. There's some pictures and some PDFs, and there's a subfolder. The point is, guys, you can put anything into your drive. It doesn't just have to be a Microsoft a file. It can be a PDF, it can be an image, it can be an audio file, it can be a video file. One of the beautiful things about Google Drive for Education is there's no limit. There is no limit to how much stuff you can put in your drive. It's like an unlimited hard drive in the cloud where you can upload as much stuff as you want. I think the only limitation I've ever heard of is an individual file. A single file cannot be larger than 2 terabytes, which is massively big. So I don't think we're going to run into that anytime soon. So there's the files that we're going to be working with here tonight. Okay. So how do I get them into my drive? Well, basically, if I go to Google Drive, one option is to go to my New button. If I give that a click on New, you'll see I get this drop-down menu. And this is normally where I go to create new things. Like if I want to make a Google Doc or a Google Sheet or a Google slideshow. This is also where I can create folders. But look, I can also do a file upload or a folder upload from here. So let's try that out. So I'm going to go to New, File Upload. And when I do that, it's going to say, okay, what do you want to upload? Well, let me go to my desktop. Let me go to my sample files here. We'll find them on here. Yeah, I know, a little bit of a messy desktop here, but we'll find our sample files, and there we go. So there's our sample files. So I could choose something like sample Word doc. Make that a little bit bigger so you guys can see that a little bit better. There we go. Sample Word doc. We'll choose that. And then I'll go ahead and click on the Open button. And just by choosing it from my regular browser window there, I can go ahead and pick it, and ta-da! Wow, that was fast. It went ahead and it uploaded that Word document like that. And so now I've had that uploaded, and you'll see in my drive, I now have sample Word doc with a big W in front of it, letting me know that is a Word document, not a Google document. That's still in Word format. So that's one option. One option is just click New, File Upload. Now, if you wanted to, you could upload a whole folder at once. You could go New Folder Upload, and you could pick an entire folder. So I could go to my desktop, and from my desktop, I could find my sample files, and I could hit OK, and I could upload that entire folder. If you do that, it doesn't just upload the folder, it uploads all the subfolders, and it creates those subfolders for you and keeps it all nicely organized. Okay? All right, one more option. Another possibility you have is drag and drop. So like we mentioned, you can use the New button, File Upload, or Folder Upload. You can also do drag and drop. Now, what I mean by that is if you go to Windows Explorer and you find the files that you're wanting to upload to Google Drive, you can simply come here, click, drag the file until it's on top of Google Drive, and then just let go of it. And when I let go of it, it's going to upload that file, and boom, there it is. Now I have sample Word document with columns uploaded. Now, this does not work in every browser. Definitely works in Google Chrome. So, as always, I encourage you to use Google Chrome. I think that's going to be your most successful browser for these things. Now, I can still do the whole folder upload as well. So if I wanted to go to my desktop and I wanted to come here and find my sample files folder, I could grab this entire folder, drag the whole folder over, and drop it. And now it's going to create the sample files folder. And then inside of there, it's going to upload each of the individual files. And it's also going to create the subfolder that was in sample files and put the files inside of that. It's working on, it's up to, there's 14 files. So it's done. Okay, very good. So now if I expand the little My Drive arrow on the side, you'll see I have a sample files folder. And if I expand that, you'll see I have a more files folder inside of there as well. So very easy to take any files that you've got on your computer and move them into your Google Drive, either by New, File Upload, or Folder Upload, or by drag and drop. I usually do drag and drop. I think that's fastest for me, but you find what works for you. All right, good stuff. All right, guys, so now we've got a whole mess of files, Microsoft Office files, sitting inside of our drive. And the question is, what can we do with them? Well, here's the thing. If you don't do anything, and actually I'll go into the sample files because they're all in there as well. If I come in here and I say, you know what, here's a sample Word doc, and I'm going to go ahead and just double click on it to open it up. Well, it's not going to do much other than give you a preview of the file. If you simply double click on a Word document or an Excel spreadsheet or a PowerPoint, If you haven't done anything special like we're going to be doing here today, you basically just get a preview of it. You can't change it. It's not editable. You can print it. You can download it. You could share it with somebody, but basically it's just view only, okay? So we're going to talk about in this session now 3 options for how do you deal with these files that are in Microsoft format. The first option is converting those files into Google format. Now, this may not work for everything, but that's why we're doing 3 different options so you can find the best one in each case. All right, so how does this work? Option 1, convert to Google format. Well, basically what you can do is you can right-click on a file and then choose Open With. And then from there, pick the Google program that it should open with. So like a Word document would open with Google Docs, and a PowerPoint would open with Google Slides. You get the idea. If you're not a right clicker, you can also choose Open With from the preview menu after you double click on something. Okay, so let's try that out. So let's take this sample Word doc that we have here, and we're going to do this on several of them. We'll try it out with a few of them here and see how it works. But if I take this sample Word doc and I do a right click on it, I can choose Open With and then choose Google Docs. Now I can probably also do it from the menu at the top. Usually if there's an option there, click there, probably the 3 little dots. Yep, there we go, Open With Google Docs. That works as well. So one option is right click, Open With Google Docs. And when I do that, I'm saying take this Word document and convert it into a Google document. And there it goes. It's doing its thing. It's converting it over. How well did it work? Well, you know, in this case, pretty darn well, because that was a pretty simple doc. That Word document was not very fancy. There wasn't much to it, but it turned it into a Google document. And so now I can come in and I can edit it. If I wanted to come in here and type blah, 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 I could type right in it, no problem at all. I can share this with people. I can use all of the wonderful Google Docs tools now. I can use the research tool, and I can go into revision history, and I can use things like the voice typing ability, and I can do commenting and sharing and collaborating. So that's fantastic. So in a case like this, that worked great. Well, it's not always going to work as well, because remember what we said early on. Google Docs and Microsoft Word, they're not the same. They're like a Venn diagram that has a lot in common, but they've got differences. So what about this? Oh, and by the way, notice when I did that, look what happened, guys. In Drive, I now have 2 files named the same thing. I've got the original one with a big W in front of it. That's the Word version of the sample Word doc. And then I've got another one with a Google Doc icon in front of it. That's the Google Docs version of it. So that's the converted version. So you have the original and the converted version. All right. Let's try another one. This one, remember, was the one that had columns in it. It had columns, it had clip art, and it had a page border in it. All right, let's see how well it fares. So I'm going to go ahead and right click, go up to Open With Google Docs, or like we said, you can even double click, and from the preview mode, you can say Open With Google Docs. That's fine too, whatever method works for you. And here it goes, converting that over. Well, you know, a few things are going to get lost in translation, unfortunately. For example, notice there's no page border. Yeah, why? Well, because Google Docs doesn't do page borders, so it's not suddenly just going to have that ability. It just isn't there. Docs don't do that. So there is not a page border. Also, hey, look, there's no columns. It took all of that text and put it in one big column. Basically, there's no separate columns there. So I lost my columns. My clip art came through okay, but I lost my columns. So be aware, if there's something that Docs doesn't support, converting it into Docs, well, you're going to lose that feature. Okay, let's try a couple others. Here's our PowerPoint presentation. Let's go ahead and right click on that, go to Open with Google Slides. We'll turn that into a Google slideshow. And again, it does pretty well, but it wasn't too fancy of a PowerPoint. It was pretty basic, but it does honestly a pretty decent job of converting it over. So there's my title slide, there's my slide with just text, there's text in the clip art, there's text in the table. And here's the one that had all of those, pictures on there that were animated. Well, yeah, here's where the wheels come off. If I click on these and I go to view my animations, turns out that it turned them all into just fade in. Why? Well, because we do have animations and slides, we just don't have as many. It doesn't have all of those fancy animations. So guess what? Google does its best job and picks another one to take its place. So yeah, I lost the swivel and the bounce and that kind of stuff, but I still do have animations at least. And then finally, let's try our Excel spreadsheet. Remember that was with high and low temperatures and a couple of formulas. Let's open that with Google Sheets and we'll let that convert over. So chugga, 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 converting that guy over. And it's still coming pretty good. There's my colored columns. There's my data. There's my formulas for the range, the max, the min, the average. There's my chart. It all came through pretty well. Okay, so basically what we're saying is if you have files that you want to convert over to a Google document or a Google slideshow or Google Sheet, you can do that. Now, keep in mind, your mileage will vary on how well it converts to Google format. Features that are unique to Office will not convert well or at all, like columns, page board, or special animations. But you will get the benefits then of having something in Google format, like sharing or revision history or the research tool or all those, whatever. There's a lot of great benefits that come from having something in Google format, especially like we said, sharing. So you got to kind of decide, is this something that's just for me? Nobody else is ever going to see it. Well, then maybe converting it to Google format doesn't help you. But if it's like, no, I want somebody to work on this with me. I want to share. I want to collaborate. I want the kids to be able to contribute to this. Well, then maybe it's worth converting it to Google and cleaning up the few things that didn't quite make the trip well. So that's kind of a toss-up. You have to decide that for yourself. What if, though, you say, nope, Eric, that didn't work for me. That just wasn't good enough. The thing that I had in Microsoft Office did not convert well to the point that that's just not going to fly. I've lost too many features. Well, then let's take it up a level. So we're going to go to option 2 now. Option 2 is to edit the Microsoft Office files in Drive without converting them using a special Office editing extension. So let's talk about that. A couple years ago, Google bought a company called Quick Office. And that company, what they did was they made tools to allow you to edit Word documents if you didn't own Word, and edit PowerPoint if you didn't own PowerPoint, and edit Excel if you didn't own Excel. Well, Google bought Quick Office and they incorporated Quick Office, all of that technology, into this extension that they've created. And so there's a Chrome web extension that lets you do light editing. And I do need to emphasize that this is not a full-featured version of Word. We're getting to that later. That's step 3. This is option 2, not option 3. It's a light version of Word and PowerPoint and Excel. So you can do some light editing without converting the file into Google format. Okay, so how does that work? Well, basically, this is built into Chromebooks by default. So if you have a Chromebook, you actually don't have to install this extension. It's just actually baked right into the Chrome OS. But if you're using a Mac or a PC, this is actually an extension that you're going to have to install. Now, I've got it linked in here to the slideshow. I've also got it linked in on our web page. Remember, tiny.cc/spark225, I believe is our session for today. When you go below our video, you'll see I've got a bunch of links here, and right there it is, Office Editing for Docs, Sheets, and Slides, Chrome extension, and I've got the link right there on the web page as well. So basically, that's going to shoot you out to the Chrome Web Store, and you're going to find an extension called Office Editing for Docs, Sheets, and Slides. And all you have to do is click Add to Chrome to install it. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and install it on my Drive, my test Drive account here. So let me go ahead and install this. And by the way, if you don't have the link, if you just go to the Chrome Web Store and type in Office Editing for Docs, Sheets, and Slides, or just even Office Editing, it should come up pretty fast for you. And the Chrome Web Store, as always, is at chrome.google.com/webstore, or just use the links in our website there. All right, let's get going. So let me say I want to add it to Chrome, give it permission, and let it do its thing. Now, this is a big extension, so actually it does take a little while to download. So we're going to let that download. And while it's doing it, let me explain what is going to happen. Now that it's been installed, if I go to my Drive and I go to open up any of my Microsoft Office files, what's going to happen is, oops, let me go back and click there. What's going to happen is it's going to launch this extension, and it's going to let me do some light editing of that Microsoft Office file without ever converting it. So let's try that out. I'm going to go to my drive. Looks like it's all done installing. Looks like it's happy. Yep, I think it did its thing. So let me go to drive. Now I am going to refresh my drive screen. I want to make sure it picks up the change. It's not a bad idea whenever you install an extension. It's usually wise to go ahead and reload your page so that you make sure the extension kind of is recognized. So here I am back in Drive. And now I'm going to go down to my sample Word doc that we saw earlier. And this was the very basic, simple one, nothing too fancy about it, but it's in Word format. This is not the converted one. Watch what happens when I double click on it now. I'm not going to get a preview. I'm going to get this extension launching. And when it launches, it's going to open up, like we said, a light version of Word. And here's the little welcome screen. And you'll notice it looks different because in the top left-hand corner, there's not a Google Docs icon. There's a big W to say you're using a light version of Microsoft Word. So this file has not been converted. It did not get turned into a Google Doc. It's just letting me do some minor editing. And again, it's minor editing. I can go in and I can type. I can change some things. You know, there's not a lot. I mean, I can change like the font size, bold, italics, underline, font color, you know, centering, bullets, numbering. So if you just needed to take a Word document and fix a few things in it, like something was misspelled, or you had to update a date or change a few things, you wouldn't have to convert this into a Google Doc to do this in Drive. You could use this extension, have this extension installed, and you could simply double click on the file, open it up, and do some light editing, okay? Now, a nice thing about this, though, is it helps us with some things that are normally pain points. Like, remember when we had the Word document that had columns in it? Well, now that I've got this extension installed, if I come here and I double click on my Word document with columns, it's going to launch that extension. And thankfully, I'm still going to have preserved the columns. Look at that. Now the columns are there. Excellent. So I can actually go in there and I can type inside of the columns where normally I would never be able to do that in a Google Doc. This is opening it up in the light version of Word. The page borders there just didn't quite make the trip quite as fancy. It's a very simple page border, but at least it made it there. And so this works with all of those files. So I could do this with my Excel spreadsheet. If I came in here and I double clicked on my Excel spreadsheet, you will see that it will open up in a light version of Excel. And I could then do some minor editing to that spreadsheet in the light version of Excel. And then the same thing is true for the PowerPoint. If I open the sample PowerPoint, it is not being converted into a Google slideshow. It is staying in a light version of PowerPoint. And again, I can go in and I can make some minor edits to this. And of course, save all my changes right to Drive without ever converting it. So that is an option if you have some files that are a little fancier than will convert well into Google format, or you just don't want to convert them. You just need to leave them as a docx or whatever the case might be. This extension will allow you to open them into a light version of Office and do some minor editing, and of course, saving all your changes right back to Drive. Now, if you do this, what if later on you say, that's great, I love it, but I do have a Word document that I actually do want to convert into a Google Doc. How do I do it now? Well, here's the thing. Most people think, oh, I'll just do what I did before. I'll just come in and I'll click on it and I'll right click and I'll go open with Google Docs. Well, here's the thing, guys. That's not going to work after you've installed this extension. Once this extension is installed, if you say open with Google Docs, you're actually telling it to launch the extension. And what it's going to do is it's going to open up that document in Word format in that light editor. So you go, well, shoot, what do I do then? What if I do want to convert something into a Google Doc? Well, basically it just becomes a two-step process. First of all, open it up by either double clicking on it or like I just did, where you said open with Docs. Either way is fine, but just go ahead and get it open in the light editor. And then from the light editing screen, go up to File And there you go. Second option down, save as Google Docs. So you still can do it. You still can convert it to a Google Doc or a Google slideshow or a Google spreadsheet. You just have to open it first in the light editor. Then from file, you can say save as a Google Doc, and it will go ahead and do that for you. All right. And I think I have that on my next slide. Yep, there you go. So if you still want to save it as a Google file, you can do that. Click File and then Save as Google Docs or Slides or Sheets, whichever one is appropriate. All right. So far, so good. Excellent. So we have talked about converting things into Google format. We've talked about using a special extension to do some light editing without conversion. What if you're still saying, Eric, that's still not what I need for everything. There's stuff I've got to do that I've got to have Word. I've got to have PowerPoint. I've got to have Excel, the full version of it, because I'm doing something special with this file. It's not converting well. The light editor is not enough. Well, guess what? You are still in luck. Yes, because we have option 3. And option 3 is, believe it or not, you can save all of your Microsoft files in Drive. And with them saved in Drive, you can still edit them live with a special plugin or a special extension that we're going to look at. So let's chat about what that means. All right. So here's the idea. There are 2 tools that exist that allow you to store your files in Drive, but still edit them in Office. So even though the Word document is saved in Drive, you can actually open it live inside of Microsoft Word on your regular computer and make edits to it and save it right back to Drive without ever missing a beat. So it's completely live, completely seamless. Those 2 tools are the Google Drive plugin for Microsoft Office and the AwesomeDrive extension for Chrome. Now, these are 2 separate tools. You don't have to use both. I mean, you can. There's no problem. They don't conflict. They don't fight with each other, but they do pretty much the same thing with just a little bit of a difference, and I'm going to highlight what those differences are. So you can just pick the one you like or go ahead and install them both. That's okay. It's not going to hurt anything to have both of them there. All right, so I'm going to start with the one that's the Google Drive plugin, then we'll do the AwesomeDrive, okay? And we'll explain how both of these work. So the first one is the Drive plugin. So Google actually creates this one. So this is an official plugin from Google. They created it and they released it. And basically what it lets you do is store all your Office files in Drive, but then you can open up Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, and from those programs, you have access to your Drive from inside of Word, inside of Excel, inside of PowerPoint. You can open things straight from your Drive. You can save things straight to your Drive. And so it does a live link between your Office programs on your computer and your Drive, okay? So a couple things you need to understand about it. This is what is called a plugin. It gets installed on your computer. This is not a Chrome extension. This is not a web app. This is not a Docs add-on. This is a program that gets downloaded and installed on the computer you're actually sitting at. So this is not like, oh, I installed this extension and now everywhere I go, it shows up. No, 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 no. This is per computer. You sit down, you install it locally on that machine, and then it runs on that computer. You do have to have Office installed. So this is not a replacement for Office. This is a linkage to Office. So you have to have Office 2007 or above. Now this one's only for Windows. The second option that we're going to look at works on Macs as well, but this one's just for Windows, so Windows 7 or higher. And there's a link. It's also in our website here. We've got a link out to the Google Drive plugin. There's a plugin download page there and links here as well. And so you're actually going to download this file, this physical executable file to your computer, double click on it, run it, let it install. Now I've already done that. I've already installed it. So it's already installed on this computer. And I'm going to show you how it works, what it does after you've got it installed. Okay. This is a picture of what it looks like, but I'm going to actually go ahead and I'll show you how it works. Okay. So here's the idea. What I'm going to do with this plugin, because it's installed, is I'm going to begin by opening a Microsoft program like Word, okay? So the way you begin this one is you don't start in Drive, you start with the Microsoft program. So I'm going to come down here, I'm going to fire up Microsoft Word. And once Word gets fired up here, give that a second to open up. Come on, Word. There you are. Excellent. All right. Now, once Word is there, watch what I can do. If I have something already saved in my Google Drive that is a Word document, I can, from Microsoft Word, go down to the Open Other Documents link, and would you look at that? Right here is an icon for Google Drive. So right from Microsoft Word, I can click Google Drive. And if you haven't signed in, there'll be a sign in option. I went ahead and signed in ahead of time. It's just a little pop-up window you click on and you sign in with your Google account. I'm already signed in with my little test user here. I can now say, let's open a file from Google Drive. So let's click that. And what it's going to do is it's going to open up a window here where it says, okay, Eric, here's your Google Drive. There's your sample Word doc. There's your sample Word doc with columns. Here's that folder called sample files. Inside of there are many, many more files that I uploaded. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and choose one of these. We'll just pick the, I guess we could do the one with the columns. I guess that's fine. That's the more sophisticated one. We'll go ahead and pick the one that had columns on it. And we'll go ahead and select that. Give that a second to do its thing. And there we go. It has just opened that that Word document. It's opened that Word document directly from my Google Drive. And so here it is. I'm in full Word. I've got all the abilities of Word. So I'm going to come in here and I'll just throw in something here. I'll just say just testing. And I can make changes to it, do whatever I want. And when I come up here and I click my save button, it's not saving it to my hard drive. It just saved it to my Google Drive, not an extra copy, not a new copy. It saved it in place of the old version. So I don't have to worry about, okay, I'm saving stuff in my drive and I want to edit it. So I've got to go to Drive. I got to download it to my computer. I've got to edit it on my computer. Then I've got to re-upload it to Drive. And oh, shoot, now I've got 2 copies of it. Nope. It's doing all of that for you seamlessly. So right from Word, I can do that. Now, not only can I do that as far as opening files, but I can do this if I want to create new files. So from Word, from PowerPoint, from Excel, it doesn't matter. I can go to File, I can go to New, do a blank document, and again, we'll just put in testing. Nothing too fancy here. Make that a little bigger so we can actually see it. Excellent. And when I go to save a file that's brand new, if I go up to my Save button, I can save it like normal on my computer, my desktop, wherever, or look at that, I can save it to my drive. So right from Word, I can say, let's save this straight to Google Drive. Come here, click my Save As button. It says, where do you want to save it? Come here and pick which folder I want to drop it in. I'll put it in the sample files folder. That's a good folder for it there. So let's go ahead and we'll put it in the more files. That's fine. And then we can give it a name. We'll call it test doc, and we'll hit OK, and it's saving it straight to my Google Drive. So even though I completely started all of this in Microsoft Word, I can open from Drive, save right back to Drive, or create new files and save them to my Drive. Now, did that really work? Let's try it out. Let's see. Let's close out of Word. We'll close out of that one. We'll close out of that one. Let's go to my Drive here, and let's see. Did it really work? Well, okay, I remember which ones I edited now, so help me out here, guys, if I forget. Let's see. Inside of sample files, I edited the one that was the Word document with columns. So let's open that up and see if it made the trip through okay. Sometimes I have to refresh. I have noticed that. So if it does, oh, don't even have to this time. There it is. Just testing came through perfect. So yep, that one worked. And then what about, I think I saved the other one inside of more files. And there it is. There's test doc right inside of more files. Open that up with my Chrome extension and it should just say testing, and it does. Perfect. So if you want to still use Word, PowerPoint, Excel, but get the benefit of automatically saving everything right to your drive, that is an option for you. Okay. So that's how that one works. Now, again, it does have the limitation. It has to be Windows. So let's go up one more level here and look at this next option. The next option is called AwesomeDrive. It's an extension that allows you to do pretty much the same thing. You can use Word, Excel, PowerPoint, work on files, save them directly to your drive. A couple of different things about it, though. It is an extension. Okay, so this is going to get installed from the Chrome Web Store, which means you can push it out to your users if you want to. It's much easier to install than a plugin. It does require Office, of course, again, because you are opening these things in Office. But look, it works on Windows or Mac. So yay, how about that? That's good. The only really negative I know about it is they do have a limit on the file size, just the way the extension is written. The biggest file it can handle is 32 megabytes. Now that is pretty big, but I definitely know you could certainly have a PowerPoint or something that is larger than that. That is possible. But if it's less than 32 megabytes, you're good to go with this. So how does this one work? Well, again, it's an extension, so we have to install it from the Chrome Web Store. Now, I've got the link in the slideshow. I've also got the link here in my session resources. So there it is, AwesomeDrive Chrome extension. Let's give that a click. Let's open that up, and it will open up the Chrome Web Store. And again, you can just type in AwesomeDrive if you don't know where to find it. I'm going to click my Add to Chrome button to go ahead and install this. Let it do its thing, and there we go. It has now installed AwesomeDrive. All right. So how does this one work? Well, basically, the way this one works is, and I'll actually demonstrate it, but this is a little animated GIF that they put together to show how it works. It launches from Drive, not from your Microsoft programs. So let me explain what I mean. Let me go back to my Drive. Let me reload Drive so I get a nice fresh reload here. Oops, it's going to ask for permission. Let's give it permission here. All right, very good. Oh, still popping up with a little welcome screen. That's okay. We'll let it welcome us. That's perfectly fine. Thank you very much. We'll let you welcome us here. So now if I come here to my Drive and I find any of the files that I would like to work on, notice if I hover my mouse above a Word document, I get a little W button that pops up to the right of it that says Edit File if I hover above it. Or if I were to go to a or here's an Excel, there's a little Excel icon, or PowerPoint, there's a little PowerPoint icon, a little P. Here's the idea, guys. Instead of going to Word first and then going to Open and then going to your Drive, finding the file and opening it into Word, you can actually start in Drive, find the Word file or PowerPoint or Excel, and just click on the little W that pops up to the right and say, I want to edit this file. Watch what happens when I do that. It's going to pop up and say, do you want me to do this? Now you can tell it to remember in the future so it doesn't keep asking you. I'll just let it launch. It says, are you sure you want to do this? You go, yes, I am sure. And it's going to launch Word for you. And after it launches Word, it is then going to let you edit it just like normal. And so here I am inside of Microsoft Word. I'll put in more testing this time. I'll type in more testing, make that a little bit bigger so we can see it nice and easy there. And when I go to click save, it's going to say, are you sure you want to do this? And again, you can say, don't show this in the future, just so you don't get bugged by it. I'll say, yes, I am sure. And it is saving it directly back to my Drive. So it opened it from Drive and it's saving it right back to Drive. So when I'm done using this, I can now come here, close out of Microsoft Word, and I should now have a sample Word doc here that has been edited. And it looks like the time is 4:18, so it did get edited. Let's open it up here locally inside of Drive and see. And here it comes. And there's more testing right in there. So if you would prefer to open your Word and PowerPoint and Excel files from Drive, AwesomeDrive extension will let you launch them right from there. Now, folks, not only does it let you open existing files, but it lets you create new Word, PowerPoint, and Excel files as well. So just like the plugin lets you first go to Word, then make a Word doc, then save it to Drive, this allows you to start in Drive. So the shift is here. It's all in Drive instead of starting in the other programs. So from Drive, I can click New and take a look at that. Right below Doc, Sheets, and Slides, what do you have? Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. I can actually create a Word document, an Excel document, or a PowerPoint right from my Drive. So if I go New Word document, I have to name it. So we'll call this Test 3, and we'll hit Create. And it's going to create a Word document, launch that into Word. And once Word opens up, I will be able to now edit Test 3 in any way I want. So I'll just put in just testing, Make that nice and big so we can see it easily there. And if I hit my save button, of course, it is saving it right back to Drive as I do that. So you can create new Word, PowerPoint, and Excel files right from Drive. And now if I go back to my Drive, there it is. There's test3 doc, and it's a Word document saved in my Drive. The only weird thing I have found here, and I'll demonstrate it for you and you can see it live, is when you go to create an Excel document. So let's do a test spreadsheet. When you go to do an Excel, we'll see who can catch this the fastest. 5 points to who can see the weird thing that happens here. We'll let it open up for a second here. So it's creating the Excel spreadsheet and it's opening it up in Excel. Come on, Excel. There it is. All right. Now, it's probably hard to see because it's all a lot of stuff on the screen there and the text is really small. But anybody who's used Excel a lot, you're probably going to notice really fast, look down at the tabs. They're not named sheet 1, 2, and 3. And I'm not going to try to pronounce this. I'll embarrass myself. Yes, I took 4 years of French in high school, and I still cannot speak. Well, I can say I have a red crayon. That's about it. J'ai un crayon rouge. So there you go. There's my French. That's about it. This is actually French for sheet 1, sheet 2, and sheet 3. The company that makes this this extension is a French-speaking. They're from a French-speaking location. And I actually wrote to the guy and said, hey, this is kind of weird. And he said, oh, yes, I totally understand. He probably said it, though, with more French accent. I won't do that. I'll get in trouble. But anyway, he said, no problem at all. He goes, actually, we appreciate being made aware of that. When these are created, when AwesomeDrive creates the new Word document, the new spreadsheet, the new PowerPoint slideshow, it uses a template that it's got saved. And the template actually had the French names for sheet in there. He said he was going to change that in the next release because they figured most people are probably going to be English speaking that use this. Now, hey, it's no biggie. Just double click on it and you can rename it. So if you don't like it being called whatever the French pronunciation is, 10 bonus points to whoever can pronounce that for me because I don't know how to pronounce it. It's F-E-U-I-L. That's the spelling. You can just double click on it and you can rename it to sheet 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So just wanted you to be aware that when it comes to creating spreadsheets, you will get that one other little change there. All right. Well, we are getting close to the end of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little wrap up here on my end to tie some of this together. Then I'm going to throw this to Anthony and see if it looks like we do have some. Okay, so I do see some questions. So we're going to answer some questions and then we'll have our official wrap up at the end here. So basically, as we start to conclude all of this, the important thing to realize is that all of these options have pros and cons. It's not like any one of these three is perfect. You can convert Microsoft files into Google format. You can use the Office editing extension for light editing while they're still in Office format, or you can use the Google Drive plugin or AwesomeDrive extension to link your own installed versions of Word, PowerPoint, and Excel to your Drive. So you can save to Drive, but open in those programs and still work on them in those programs. Now, obviously, that isn't going to work on a computer that doesn't have Office. So, Chromebooks, that's not going to be an option for a Chromebook because a Chromebook doesn't actually have Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. That's why when we were looking at this on that one, I think I mentioned on these about needing to have Windows or Mac OS. So it's Windows for the Drive plugin. For AwesomeDrive, it's Windows or Mac. Actually, I think they have a Linux version of it, though. So I actually am pretty positive they do have a Linux version as well. So the point is, guys, you need to pick the best tool to match the specific job each time. Office is a fantastic suite of tools. Drive is an amazing suite of tools. They both have benefits, and you need to find the right tool for the right job at that time. But hopefully, this lets you see that the two can live in some amount of harmony. You can still use all of your old Office files, maybe convert them over to Google and take advantage of sharing and collaborating and revision history and research tool and all those wonderful things. Or maybe leave them as Word, PowerPoint, and Excel files, but save them in Drive and be safe and say, oh, this is wonderful. I don't have to worry about my hard drive crashing and I'm losing all of my files. I know they're safe in the cloud and Google's got them safe there for me and I can edit them live whenever I need to. All right, Anthony, what were some of the questions?
Default endings automatically change.
Do the file endings change in which situation when converting? When you convert something from a Word file into a Google file, you will see that the name does not change at all. So here is the sample Word doc when it was in Word format, sample Word doc.docx. The Google Doc is named the exact same thing, sample Word doc.docx. Now, if you don't want to leave it like that, I mean, you can rename everything. It's not a problem. You could just come here and click rename and say, well, this is no longer needing the docx on the end of it. Hit OK, and it can rename it. But it's really irrelevant. These names, they're just for your reference. The actual name of a file is the crazy long, letters and numbers of the URL for it. That's not this. This is just a title for you. But no, those do not change. You could always rename them yourself if you wanted to.
Publisher substitute.
Publisher. Nothing in this session we're talking about today directly addresses that, but what I can do for you guys is point you to the tool that I would recommend. If you are looking for something to replace Microsoft Publisher, Docs can do some of the things. Actually, Slides can do some of the things. But if you're really looking for desktop publishing, Google does not have their own tool for that. But the beauty of Google Apps is you're allowed to use third-party tools. So if you go to the Chrome Web Store, which again, you can get there a lot of ways. You can open up a new tab, go to the apps button in the top left and choose Web Store, or you can simply go to chrome.google.com/web store. That'll work as well. The one that I recommend all the time is Lucid Press. These are the folks that make Lucid Chart, which is a good mind mapping tool. Lucid Press is their totally free desktop publishing tool. Now, there is a premium version and a free version, but as a school district, your school can fill out a form to say we are an educational or organization, and you will get the more full-featured version of it as well. Even the free version is very nice, but they are fantastic for schools, and so your school can say, hey, here's our domain, and they can basically apply the upgrade to your entire domain. And so Lucid Press is a free desktop publishing tool. You can make trifold brochures, you can make flyers, postcards, anything that you might, posters, whatever you might need to create. Anthony used that when you did our program for our conference each year. I've used it for several things as well. So that's what I would say if you're looking for a Microsoft Publisher alternative. Totally free, Lucid Press. Can't say enough nice things about the Lucid folks. They do a great job.
The only thing is, the learning curve is just as high as publishing.
Sure, it's a more complicated program. Don't think it's just going to be get in there and start typing. Yeah, it's a desktop publishing program. So yes, there's way more buttons than you'll ever find in Word or in Docs because it's a publishing program. All right, anything else before we start to wrap up?
I just had a comment. AwesomeDrive is awesome.
AwesomeDrive is awesome. Glad to hear that. All right, guys. Well, as we start to wrap up here today, as a reminder, all of the resources for today can be found at tiny.cc/spark, SPARCC 225. I'll pop back over to that website to show that to you one more time. That's where you can go to see the recorded video. Now that we're just about done, you'll see all of the resources for this session. There's the live session chat, which will obviously be no longer live after this. But then there is the session evaluation. Please take a moment, give that a click and fill it out. It's very brief, but it helps us get feedback so we can improve these sessions in the future. And there is a brief quiz you can take, 5-question quiz, to earn a certificate of attendance for 1 contact hour by watching this webinar. It'll automatically create the PDF and email that to you to turn in for LPDC credit or however your school or organization handles webinars. In addition, while you're there, don't forget to visit the PD schedule where you'll see the upcoming webinars we have. Visit the recorded trainings where you'll see all the ones we've done in the past. Take advantage of those. Lots of great things. We've been doing this for about a year now. There's quite a few of them there. Go to the newsletter link to sign up for our monthly newsletter. And of course, the contact link to get in touch with us if you have any questions or comments. Other than that, we just want to say thank you so very much for being a part of this webinar here today. We look forward to seeing you again in the upcoming weeks for more educational technology webinars. Take care.